Well, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Daniel John Lee with Torah Restoration Ministries, and happy Feast of Firstfruits. It is Saturday night, April I guess it's the 23rd now, Saturday night, 2016, and it is the beginning of the Feast of Firstfruits. The Feast of Firstfruits, according to Leviticus 23, always happens on the morrow after the Sabbath day within the 7 days of unleavened bread. And since the first day of unleavened bread started on Thursday night, and it goes through next Thursday night, April the 28th, the morrow after the Sabbath, within those 7 days, is this Sunday, is April the 24th, which is tomorrow. So tonight, because the day begins at night, starts the Feast of Firstfruits. This is the day when the ancient Israelites would bring in their first sheaf or their first shock of barley and bring it up to the high priest in Jerusalem during Passover week, and the high priest would wave their first fruit of the barley harvest, which is the very first harvest in Israel for the year. And this was fulfilled by Messiah, by Yahshua, when after he was crucified on Passover, and that year Passover fell on a Wednesday, and he was crucified on Wednesday, the 14th of Aviv, on Passover as the Passover lamb, and he was in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He rose just before the end of the Shabbat on Saturday evening, so it was Resurrection Sabbath, not Resurrection Sunday, Resurrection Shabbat, and then that night started the Feast of Firstfruits, which is Sunday, or Saturday night to Sunday night, which is the Feast of Firstfruits. Always happens on the first day of the week. And this is the day where he presented himself as the first fruit from among the dead. He is risen. This is when it was discovered that he had resurrected on the Sabbath evening before. And so on this day is when he ascends up to the Father, and he presents himself as a first fruit offering from among the dead to Yah. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. I wanted to film this here at this beautiful fountain here in downtown Portland, because a fountain is a symbolic of new life, of life springing up, and it's all lit up. And so I thought it was a good symbolism for this first Feast of Firstfruits. Now, what's interesting is that even though Yahshua resurrected on the Sabbath just before sunset, and then ascended to the Father on Firstfruits to present himself as the firstborn among the dead, as Apostle Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 15, it's not a Sabbath day. It's not a high Sabbath. It's a work day. It's like Passover. It's a work day, or it's not a required Sabbath. And why is that? Why is the Feast of Firstfruits, where he just resurrected from the grave, and now he ascends to the Father to present himself as a firstfruit from among the dead? Why is that not a Sabbath? Well, because it's a lot of work to rise from the grave and then to ascend to the Father and present himself as that first barley harvest. Remember, he rises from the dead first, and then we follow. We who trust in him and love him, we then have our hope that we one day, whether we're believers in him who die, or if we're alive and remain when he returns, all of us, because of his first resurrection 2,000 years ago, now we get to partake in that. And on Yom Teruah, which is the mirror festival in the fall, it mirrors the Feast of Firstfruits. That's when the last trumpet will blow, and we'll get called up to be with him on some future Yom Teruah that has not yet been fulfilled. But even though Yahshua has already fulfilled the Feast of Firstfruits, we continue to celebrate it, because in Leviticus 23 it says this will be a perpetual statute forever in all your generations. We continue to remind ourselves that Yahshua is risen, that he's risen from the grave, and that he ascended to the Father. And also, this is when the Omer count begins. We count 50 days from tonight. 50 days from tonight, which will take us to Shavuot, or Pentecost, when the Ruach HaKadosh is shed abroad upon his saints, and when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, the Word and the Spirit, the Torah and Spirit, or spiritandtorah.com. And so, this feast is directly connected to Shavuot, which happens in the late spring, early summer. This year it'll happen in early June. 50 days from tonight, it will begin, Shavuot. Firstfruits and Shavuot always happen on our first day of the week, from Saturday night to Sunday night. So rejoice. It is a work day, but it's also a time to praise, to worship, to rejoice. It is the Feast of Firstfruits, hallelujah, and praise Yahshua, the risen Mashiach, the risen Messiah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I just wanted to show that because this is the city of roses. So I think that rose is kind of cool.